We feed off of each other. And I want to thank you guys for being here. And it's a great honor for me to do what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to introduce the First Lady. And they told me I could wing it, but I have this thing and I'd rather read it because I don't want to leave anything out. In January of 2015, Cecilia Abbott made history by becoming the first Hispanic First Lady of Texas. She's been a teacher, a vice principal, a principal at several Catholic schools across Texas, and she's also worked in senior health care services. But the First Lady hasn't only devoted her professional life to helping others, she has done the same in her personal life. She serves on many different boards, several educational organizations, and is a member of many philanthropic groups. Her signature initiative as First Lady is Texas and philanthropy. And she's kind of put these two things together, and it's called Texanthropy. And that's a term that she put together, and she does that very well, and she promotes volunteerism throughout the state of Texas. Cecilia Abbott has partnered with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services on a similar initiative called Network of Nurture to raise awareness about the ways Texans can support the children and families in the state's child welfare system. First Lady Cecilia also collaborates with the governor's child sex trafficking team, the Department of Family and Protective Services, and a diverse group of faith leaders across Texas to develop effective strategies to end human trafficking. And they do this through the GRACE Initiative. And the GRACE Initiative stands for Governor's Child Sex Trafficking Team, and they're fighting that. And I'm telling you, that's near and dear to my heart. And just to have a First Lady that's putting that out there and organizing and making things happen, man, that affects all of us. Let's keep her in prayer. Let's keep our leaders in prayer. Keep me in prayer. We need that. Cecilia also is a devoted wife to her husband of 40 years, our governor, Texas Greg Abbott. And she's a proud mother to her daughter, Audrey, and dogs Pancake and Peaches. It is with great honor, I'm very honored, and I'm humbled. A few months ago, I was not like I was a nobody. Of course, I was somebody, but I was just a regular person, and now I'm a state representative. So I'm so humbled and I'm honored to introduce the first Hispanic First Lady of Texas, Cecilia Abbott. So good to see you.
Thanks so much. Well, thank you so much, Representative Lujan, and thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you for the endless commitment to ensuring that Texas remains a state like no other. Greg and I are so happy to be here in San Antonio. I don't know if you know this, but San Antonio is my hometown, and I'm always happy to spend time here. My dad still lives here and in the same house where I grew up. And Greg and I were engaged here and married here 40 years ago. Well, when we got married, Greg became part of my family, which is deeply rooted in this city. San Antonio became just as important to him as it always has been to me. And it holds a special place in both of our hearts and in our lives. Like many of you, a strong work ethic is something that was instilled in me and Greg at a very, very early age. Ever since I first met him at the University of Texas, I knew that Greg was a hard worker. He has achieved and overcome so much throughout his life. The challenges that he faced would have led many people to just simply give up. But not Greg. Instead, he forged his own path to become an attorney, a state district judge, a state Texas Supreme Court justice, then Texas Attorney General, and now the governor of Texas. And I feel so grateful to have been by his side through it all. And I admire Greg so much for all of his accomplishments. But I admire him most for his dedication to Texas and to making sure all Texans have the opportunity to succeed. You can always count on Greg to do what is right for Texas. Whether it is protecting the unborn children, securing our border, cracking down on human trafficking, supporting our law enforcement officers, or bettering our foster care system, Greg is always working to build a better future for all Texans. It's the combination of courage, of perseverance, and hard work that makes him such a great leader. Now, please help me welcome a man that I love and that I admire, my husband, your Governor, Greg Abbott.
God bless Texas. Hey, San Antonio! It's great to be back into the city where I first announced that I was running for governor of this great state. Back in the town where my lovely wife and I got engaged just a block from here on the Riverwalk in San Antonio on Valentine's Day. And then, of course, as she said, where we got married at Our Lady of the Lake. There's no place like San Antonio, Texas. Let me tell you something. Charlie, good to see you, man. But listen, let me tell you something for a fact. I'm here back in San Antonio to tell you something, and that is Republicans are going to win in 2022 from the top of the ballot all the way down. Somebody we're going to re-elect is the man who introduced my wife. I'm looking for him right now. Where is Representative John Lujan? We're also going to re-elect one of your great state senators, Senator Donna Campbell. You're no longer a representative. You're a senator. It's an inside joke. And right behind her also somebody we're going to re-elect, and that is State Representative Steve Allison. Let me tell you why all these people are going to get reelected. Why you're going to see Republicans at the local level in Bexar County as well as statewide win election, and that is because very simply we are going to explain the difference between Republicans and Democrats. And it's never been easier than it is now. Because they're no longer Democrats. They're not even liberals or progressives anymore. They are socialists, and they're running like socialists. And we are not going to let these big government socialists destroy the great state of Texas. Take, for example, our growth that we have in our state. Under Republican leadership in the great state of Texas, Texas has formed an incredibly powerful economic juggernaut. Get these facts. Texas ranks the #1 state in the United States to start a small business. Small businesses are the heart of business in the great state of Texas. They're about 9 out of 10 of all the businesses that we have in our state, and they employ about half of all Texans. So not only are we #1 to start a small business, every year that I have been governor. Texas has created more economic development projects than any other state during my tenure as governor. And now, Texas is also elevated internationally in our economic rankings. Before COVID, Texas, if it were its own country, we would have had the 10th largest economy. Today, that's no longer true because today, Texas now has the 9th largest economy in the entire world. So what do all these numbers mean to you, the people who live right here in San Antonio? Here's what they mean. They mean that as we gather today, more Texans have jobs than ever before in the history of our state. And just as important, if you look at the jobs report that came out in November, at that time, more people had a job than ever before in the great history of San Antonio, Texas. Those jobs that are so important for Texans to be able to pay their bills, pay their rent, buy their groceries, put food on their table, that would all be destroyed under these radical leftist agenda ideas. Take, if you would, the idiotic Green New Deal that is embraced and promoted by some here in Texas on the liberal side. The Green New Deal that would crush the energy sector, the hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs for Texas families. By the way, the energy sector that not just employs people in Texas, but employs people around the Bexar County area that has made America energy independent. We are not going to allow the leftists to destroy those jobs. I am running for re-election to protect energy jobs in Texas. Education is another area where the liberal leftists are trying to impose their agenda. And you see this in issues like this critical race theory that they're using to indoctrinate our children. You see it in other states and other communities, like you might expect something like that to happen in California or New York or Illinois, but not Texas. But it has happened in the state of Texas. And that's why during this past session, during the regular session, a bill was passed to crack down on critical race theory. That was a good start. We added it to the special session, and we had another law passed. And after signing both of those laws, Texas now has the strongest ban on the teaching of critical race theory of any state in the United States of America. Listen, that said, listen, I'm a big supporter of our public schools. I went to public schools in the state of Texas, and I got to tell you this, with the help of these legislators, as your governor, I have provided more funding for our public schools than any governor in the history of our great state. But that said, at the end of the day, we've got to realize no government program can replace the role that parents play in the education and healthcare issues of our children. I am running for governor to make sure that we pass a parental Bill of Rights to restore parents as the prominent decision maker in their child's education and healthcare issues. Parents matter. And we will put parents first and foremost. Something else that matters is public safety. You see these horrific images out of Los Angeles and San Francisco, where you see smash and grab crimes taking place. You see the same thing in Chicago and New York. You see the same thing of the way that people have taken over the streets of Seattle and Portland. And one thing that you find behind it all, you have a disrespect and sometimes a defunding of law enforcement. In Texas, we support our law enforcement officers, period. For me, this is more than just a slogan. My niece serves in the San Antonio Police Department, making sure the streets of San Antonio are going to be safe. You know, when you see proof, not just in these other cities across the United States, about the catastrophe that occurs when they defund the police, we've even seen it in Texas. Who said that? There's always one. From back there to up here, I heard the same thing. Austin, Texas also defunded their police, and the result was predictable. This past year, Austin, Texas set an all-time record for the most number of murders that occurred in their city. Well, let me tell you something. As you might imagine, as your governor, there's no way that I would tolerate defunding police. And so I campaigned on and got these great legislators to pass a law that will defund any city that defunds police in Texas. Oh, that's right. And it was fun to watch, because after I signed the law, as the days were ticking down to when the law went into effect, Austin was scrambling as fast as they could to refund every dollar they had defunded police. Now Austin police are fully refunded again. But I think we all know, and candidly I could tell from your cheers earlier, that you know as well as anybody that another area where our safety is endangered as much as any is because of Biden's reckless open border policies. You know, it's idiotic, because the truth of the matter is Trump had solved the border crisis. He implemented 4 things that all Biden had to do was carry on the 4 things that President Trump did. He imposed the Remain in Mexico policy, the Title 42 policy to make sure that people with health conditions don't cross our border. He ended catch and release, and he began building the border wall. Those 4 things led to multi-decade lows in the number of illegal immigration coming across our border. But Biden got rid of it all. And I saw Secretary Mayorkas on TV this morning talking about how they're not going to be arresting people who are violating laws passed by the United States Congress prohibiting illegal immigration. Their agenda, their administration, is in reckless disregard for the United States Constitution and the laws passed by the United States Congress. Texas is not tolerating it, and we have stepped up and done more than any state in the history of the United States to secure our border. It starts with these lawmakers again, because these lawmakers provided the resources that we needed to be able to secure the border. They passed $3 billion for Texas to secure the border just over the next 2 years alone. And that money goes to, among other things, making sure that we deploy National Guard and the Texas Department of Public Safety down to the border. If I could, let me get your prayerful thoughts and consideration for just one moment. You know, it's great to cheer the fact that we send men and women down to the border. And just like other situations, people may not really appreciate or comprehend the challenges that they face. Overnight, a Texas Department of Public Safety special agent was involved in apprehending some people who were not just here illegally, but were smuggling drugs in the United States. And during the course of that operation, there was a vehicle accident, and the Texas Department of Public Safety special agent lost his life. This is the very best of Texas. The men and women who are willing to put their lives on the line to arrest lawbreakers to make sure that you and all Texans enjoy the kind of safety that we rightfully deserve. So I want you to go home tonight and pray to God for the family of this officer, a family who lost a husband and a father and a son who meant the world to them. But I want you to also know that they have a governor who also feels like they mean the world to us Texans, and they have a governor who has their back. So what these DPS officers have been doing, this is not the first time last night. They've been cracking down on drug smugglers. They've been doing this every single day, and I got to tell you a reason why they needed to escalate it. And that's because of the record-breaking amount of fentanyl that's coming across our border. 2 tiny milligrams of fentanyl, which is smaller than 2 grains of salt, is a deadly dose. And law enforcement in Texas, just over the past year alone, have seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in Texas, California, Illinois, New York, and Florida combined. This is dangerous, and that's why we have our law enforcement on the border to try to keep fentanyl out of communities like Bexar County, where we do know that it is invading. Another challenge that we know is being faced in Bexar County and San Antonio is a consequence of these open borders, and that is the horrific crime of human trafficking. And to better address human trafficking, these lawmakers passed, and I signed this past session, 15 laws cracking down on human trafficking in Texas. We will not stop until we completely eradicate the scourge of women and children being trafficked across our border, across our state, and put an end to this crisis, a human crisis of human trafficking. And then on top of all that, also to crack down on the drug smuggling of fentanyl, they passed and I signed a new law to address this new crime. It is now a felony in the state of Texas for anybody to manufacture or to distribute fentanyl in Texas. We will arrest you, we will put you behind bars, and you will stay behind bars for a long time of your trafficking in fentanyl in Texas. And now, Texas is building its own border wall to keep Texas secure. And we're going to keep building that border wall. Build. All right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But y'all need to understand this. As much as the issue about the border and border policy is on the ballot, and understand this, Beto, when he ran for president, he ran to the left. I keep making that same mistake. When Robert Francis O'Rourke when he ran for president, he ran on these same open border policies that Joe Biden put in place. The worst thing that could happen to Texas is if you had a governor who was joined with Joe Biden in his open border policies. We cannot and will not allow that in Texas. But just as important as that, your freedom is on the ballot this election. And that starts with the First Amendment. Your First Amendment includes freedom of religion. And know this, when Robert Francis O'Rourke was running for president, he said that he would eliminate the tax-exempt status of any church that did not bow down to the woke liberal agenda. I will not allow that in the great state of Texas. And what comes after the First Amendment? let me tell you something. There is no way we're going to allow any of these crazy radical leftists to come take your guns. I have signed more than 20 laws protecting your right to keep and bear arms, including right at the Alamo over here, making Texas a constitutional carry state. And making Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state. You know, what we're dealing with is something that you need to fully comprehend. I know you support these policies, and I know something else about you. You all love the United States of America. You know, like I do, that the United States of America is the best country in the history of the entire world. But listen, as much as I know a lot of you love America, candidly, I know there are people in at this event tonight. Some of you love Texas even more than you love America. But here's the part. Here's the part you need to come to grips with. You need to wrap your head around this over the coming months. There are people in this state. There are people who are running for office who do not love America the way that you love America, who do not like Texas the way that it is today, who want to take office and redesign the state of Texas to look more like their leftist liberal image and to destroy America as we know it. We here in San Antonio, we got news for them. We are not going to let that happen. The way that we save America is the way that we win Texas. And when we win Texas, we will keep our state the best state in the history of this great nation. Thank you all for being here. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.
If you haven't climbed up to Enchanted Rock, drink a cold shiner down
Thank you all.
Taking your baby to the river walk.